Hey everyone, we've got another one here for you. A pair of John Lobbs that have been previously resold by another cobbler without any kind of stitching. That's not a blind stitch there, that's just glued on. And considering my luck lately with shoes that have been done by other cobblers, I really hope I don't open these up and there's just some kind of crazy mystery underneath that we have to attend to and creates more work for me, because that's been very common lately. But join us, check it out, and see how a proper resole is done, and what kind of odd stuff was done by the previous guy on these things. I'm not excited. So again, thank you for joining us, and as you can tell, these are all aftermarket soles, heels, some worn out heel plates on the heel, and worn out so-called toe plates. They're not real toe plates. Real toe plates are that. Metal ones that are fit, flush with the sole and everything, those are toe plates. These things, if you've seen one of my videos before talking about them, I absolutely hate these things. Now, I'm not going to say we don't stock them and don't put them on. We still carry them for some of the old timers that are just all about the heel plates. Like, if they want their heel plates, I mean, it's honestly more of a headache for me to argue with them and try to convince them why we advise against it, because I have tried, and these guys still fought and argued with me, saying, no, I need those toe plates. And then when I showed them the metal ones for the toe, and they're like, no, that's way too much and stuff, because we have to hand cut them, obviously. And yeah, now back to these shoes. Now these have had, and running some really long nails in there. You don't really need nails if you glue them on right, and these were actually glued on pretty well. It's just a bunch of nails, though. There's two nails in the same corner. There's one there and one there. And it's just in the corners. This is kind of why I'm afraid to see what's going on internally underneath the sole once I pull it off, because it has just been my luck lately, at the time of this recording, that basically everything that I get in that another shop got their hands on before had done work on it, but they did something so horribly damaging that now I have extra work to do. Unfortunately, extra work, a lot of times I actually have to charge more for, just because I mean, it's more time, it's more material, more something, anything. You know, it's constantly something. Got a pair of churches that I don't know if, at the time of the recording, if I'm even going to have that video up. I'm doing video on it. But a pair of churches where, oops, lost the chunk there. Previous cobbler caused some major damage right there. And now we have to replace the footbed, which definitely costs more to do, because now I have to cut out custom footbeds, get it to fit, put it in gemming, stitch all that. It's definitely a lot more work. And so far, from the look of it, these John Lobbs, it looks like the previous cobbler, sorry, I had to clip those nails so I don't stab myself, did what's called a 3/4 sole, I guess you can call it. So basically, underneath this heel base is still a part of the original sole right there. And then starting from here, he spliced in the new sole over top. And so, I don't know, I'm very, very afraid to figure out what's going on underneath these. So I got a little interrupted there and lost my train of thought already. But, yeah, this kind of work done by some cobblers, like, I guess you can say as, it's acceptable to a degree on, say, cheaper shoes to get just fixed up. If your goal is just to fix up your shoes to get by for a little while longer before you get your new pair, fine. But on a pair of John Lobbs, that's not acceptable. And this is peeling right off. You can see I haven't used any kind of solvents or adhesive deactivating solution. And the whole thing is just peeling right off. No problems whatsoever. So far everything looks good. I think I'm lucky this time because it looks like they even used the original cork. They didn't replace the cork at all in there because that's not a Cobbler replaced cork. So this is that type that they use for filling. It's a liquid cork or hot cork. So I'm in luck. They didn't do too much damage on there. I'm happy because otherwise I'm not in a good enough space where I'm going to be excited about another job where I'm going to have to call the person and say, yeah, this is going to cost more because the previous guy screwed it up, which I've already done just today. And still waiting on the customer to call me back because I had to leave a message. So keep in mind that not all the time what we quote you is going to be the exact price. Now, here's another thing. It looks like this exact same shoe has been resold by at least 2 different cobblers. Because there are multiple rows of stitching that are left behind on the welt. This is another piece of leather soling here that was stitched through. This is the original factory sole. This is another set of soles that was never stitched. So at least 2 different cobblers had worked on this already, and not a single one of them had replaced the cork. This is the original factory cork still. Yeah, that's crazy. Alright everyone, so I've got this back edge peeled off, and these are frustrating. Just honestly frustrating because the fact that there were 2 cobblers that had their hands on these and never replaced the cork. Now I understand there are some cobblers out there that feel the need to try to salvage the old cork as much as possible, and because you don't have to break it in, it still feels as original as possible as when you brought them in, all broken in and everything. The dilemma is, this is cork here. The cork is going to absorb sweat, moisture, that nasty grime. It's that buffer basically in between your foot and between the sole, and the sole's eventually going to let things into the shoe, and it's going to get nasty, it's going to get sweaty, and it has to be replaced. But these guys just never did it at all. At the minimum, you know, if you don't replace the cork once, the second time you absolutely have to. Now the other thing is, because both these cobblers only did 3/4 soles, well, guess what? That shank is broken. It's a wooden shank and it's snapped. So that means either the cobblers had missed it because they didn't do a full sole actually on them, or maybe it was still fine, but I'm assuming it was probably snapped a while ago and both cobblers just ignored it. So shank is gone, bunch of nails all over here, gonna have to pull all those out, and yeah. So kept getting interrupted, but I wanted to show the nails here. Now there's a lot going on with the nails. These here are gripper nails that somebody just clipped off, shaved down, and left behind. So now there's a bunch of nail heads that I'm gonna have to deal with removing them, and just a lot of dumb stuff. And honestly, that's a lot of my work that it's been coming through. Either ridiculous projects, dumb jobs. Well, I guess I don't want to call them dumb jobs per se, but they kind of are, because there's something I may have advised somebody against, telling them like, look, honestly, it's not worth it. It's better to take your money and invest towards a new pair or something. And some, now I understand some people still want to do it. You know, that's fine, and that's understandable. But just keep in mind that you know, I did my job to advise you against doing it, and if something happens where the shoe or boot falls apart after I told you it's not a good idea to do, honestly, it's on you. and because another cobbler got their hands on it and caused some damage. Keep in mind, sometimes it may cost more to fix the problem, because, yep. So I'll kind of show you guys. So we pulled this out, and you can see that the heel pad ripped out, so I'll have to make sure to replace that. But see that nail? I went through that heel pad. That indicates to me that at least one of the cobblers had nailed the heel bases back on properly, at least partially properly, because there is only a few nail heads on this side, meaning that whoever the previous cobbler was that did such a thing, they used, from the look of it, it looks like only 3 nails to hold the heel base on. So I guess you can say cobbler number 1, the one that did the first job on it, used 3 nails to hold the whole heel base on. Cobbler number 2 used either no nails or wire nails, or, oh, that's right, yeah, he or she, most of the times he, used no nails, but shaved down the old ones. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but that was actually the customer that has these churches here. Same story. Previous cobbler got their hands on it, caused some damage and everything. Now I have to replace that footbed in this one. Thankfully, I don't have to do it on these John Lobbs, because the cobbler that worked on these, they cut so many corners that they actually didn't create any additional problems for me, other than basically just replacing the shank. I mean, both shanks were actually snapped on these, and so that's not even an issue. Replacement of shank is included with our resoles, because sometimes shanks are just broken even naturally. And yeah, thankfully we don't have to redo the footbed, because this does cost additional, because I have to really redo the whole thing. I cut the sheets of leather out of, new pieces of, or cut the footbeds out of new pieces of leather that come out of sheets and get it to fit, and whew, it's definitely a lot more work. And at the time of the recording, I've got like, let's see, I've got at least 4 pairs lined up like that where I have to replace the footbed. Man, and that cork is really in there. But that's just one thing I just had to point out, because honestly I was on the verge of like wanting to cry, because I had 3 pairs of shoes here. I got one. This is also a video I'm working on as well. I don't know how much longer this one's going to take, but previous cobblers got their hands on and caused some major damage to them, and also the owner of them doesn't know what a shoehorn is apparently, and so I get to do a lot more work. And I mean, some people are saying, oh, it's more money. No, it's more work than you can imagine. There's things that we're fine with doing as cobblers, and they're, resoles, new heels, that kind of stuff. It's fine, because especially when we finish the job, we can appreciate the work afterwards. We can look at the shoe and say, I did that. It looks amazing, looks great. The internal stuff, no one knows. I know, but I can't even appreciate it visibly, because it's not even visible. It's hidden away and stuff, and it's not the same type of appreciation as when we're just doing the resoles, because we can still see the soles. We do, maybe a fun color to finish it out, maybe a different color of thread. We can see everything on the outside, but internally we can't see what's going on, and we can't even appreciate it the same way. It's hard to explain, I guess. Maybe some of you might understand what I mean, but it just creates more work. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep chiseling these out. I still got to get the nails out of both of them. I didn't get to the other one with the nails. I was trying to figure out what's going on with this one as well. I'm going to finish chiseling out whatever I can with this cork, get the nails out, and then we're going to move on to a Swedish bath to make sure these things are doing the best they can on it. So we'll go from there. So I don't know which shoes are which. I've got these and I've got those. And, well, actually, wait, these are the churches here. They're the lace-up hole cut churches. So That's what those are like. These are sitting inside the sink right now, so, or the container is at least, so I can't really get a good side angle, but I'm going to use this video for both the video on the John Lobbs and the churches that I'm working on at the same time. And just to give you guys an idea, yes, I do record multiple videos at a time sometimes and just kind of alternate between them. But this is the Swedish bath, so it's sitting inside and everything, getting thoroughly washed. There's some rocks in there to keep the shoes from floating. And yeah, so they're going to sit and soak overnight. And then we'll be back in tomorrow, pull them out, wipe them down nicely, and then set them to dry on this dryer here and everything. So, yeah. I obviously will not disclose what's inside of this bath. It's a number of different cleaning solutions that are very light. There's no solvents in there and stuff. And no, it's not the dish soap. Some of you guys are going to be like, oh, it's dish soap. Every now and then we got to use that for washing dishes. But, yeah, you know, there's a lot of different cleaners that we mix in there. But we'll be back here. You guys, a few seconds. For me, it's going to be next day. All right, everyone. So at this point now, we're going to go ahead and take apart the welts and everything on them. Because the previous guy, or at least one of them, had actually stitched the welt, but not in the best way, and didn't pull some of the old stitches, and it's really messy, and so it's just a much safer bet to go ahead and replace that welt. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off all that because it's just a mess. If I can grab the, well, go ahead and grab this one so I can show you real quick. But yeah, there's some areas that are kind of chopped up like that right there. So there are multiple rows of stitching. The welt is starting to split and come apart in areas. Just a much safer bet to go ahead and replace it. But as always, talk about this plastic, that if you come across this sticking out somewhere, feel free to just grab it and yank it. It's just a protective cover that's put onto the leather upper to protect it while the shoe is being made. And so if you end up finding a chunk that's just hanging around somewhere, you can definitely rip it out with no major problems or anything. So right now I'm cutting through the stitches that are holding the welt, and this shoe really shows it quite a bit. So you've got the leather footbed. This is what your foot kind of sits on. Sometimes it'll be covered by an insole inside a little bit too. Got the gemming right there. That's this felt material that's coming unglued here. That's glued to the footbed. Sometimes there may be a little stitch holding it in place, and it comes up at an angle, like a little wall, in other words. And through that wall, you can see some of the stitching right there. There's that stitching that holds everything together, including the lining, the upper, and the welt all together into one bunch, in other words. And so thought I'd be able to show that a little better on this pair of shoes, definitely, because it kind of stands out, especially with that gemming right there. So let me go ahead and take out that whole welt. I'm going to go ahead and pull the stitches afterwards and everything all around here. It takes a little while because it does have to be done by hand, but it just comes out right there like that. And then we'll start getting ready to stitch on the new welt. Alright, everyone, so I've got the welt stitched on. I didn't really waste anyone's time on it too much as far as trying to show, but also I had to do it at home anyways. So we got the welt stitched in place here. Now I'm going to put some new steel shanks in because these wooden ones are all kinds of snapped and everything like that. So steel shanks are sometimes by request or just kind of, you know, done as is type of thing usually, but they're definitely more durable, I would say. I mean, my personal favorite are the composite or the fiberglass ones, but they don't exactly make them too often. Like, they're hit and miss sometimes to be able to find those. And then wooden ones, they just, obviously they kind of suck. I mean, these ones all snapped and everything all over the place. So sorry, my battery kind of died there, but yeah, so the shanks in here are going to be nice and fresh finally. They're going to be a little more sturdy with those steel ones. And then we're going to fix up this gemming because it always comes unglued in some of these areas. Right there, you can see, thankfully it's not all coming apart, but because we got to fill this all in with cork, that's when the gemming kind of gets re-glued. We double check any other areas, get a little glue in there, and then cover the top area too so that we can get the cork in it too. So thought I'd just kind of point that out. So they're getting a little bit of an upgrade. If I was to categorize durability on shanks, if anyone's ever wondering, probably put the steel shanks at the top for durability purposes for sure. Fiberglass would probably be next, and then the wooden ones would probably be last, or fiberboard. Well, I'd probably say fiberboard and wooden ones kind of tie quite a bit. Now, there are sometimes also leather shanks as well, but leather shanks are usually really put into shoes for a specific like design, when you have more of like a pronounced like little hump right here on the back edge, and so usually that's when you start using the leather shanks. And I've had people request that I make leather shanks. I've done them for Western boots too. But when you take those apart, sometimes even the leather shanks, they actually have either a wooden fiberboard or fiberglass or a plastic molded one, or even a steel shank internally inside of the leather, just because it needs a little bit more structure than leather can sometimes offer as well. So thought I'd point it out, but there we go. The gemming's glued up, and now we're going to let this all cure, fill it in, and keep going. So you can kind of see right at the back edge here, the welt, it sticks out a fair chunk on some areas. I got it to line up as perfectly as possible, but it's always going to stick out just a little bit, because once we start trimming, then it forms a little bit better. But that's only once the sole is on. We'll trim it up and then it kind of get it to fit a little bit better and all that kind of good stuff. So when it's time to do that, we'll see you then. Alright everyone, so we've got these finished out. I got ahead and cleaned up the uppers best I could and everything. They do have this kind of museum finish anyways on them, where they're supposed to be kind of not a solid color, in other words, but partially I think it's also at the same time, you know, normal wear and tear, in other words. But got the JR soles on there and the JR Vibram combo heels and everything. I've got them cleaned up as best we could with the Swedish bath, and the Swedish bath takes out all that nasty stuff like the sweat, the minerals that absorb on the outside too. Conditioned up and ready to go with the new welds. Overall, I mean, John Lobbs are great shoes, but at the same time, for the price point on these ones, because a lot of the John Lobbs, they're kind of like you have to order them or get, you know, custom made ones and everything, and John Lobb really concentrates on their leather uppers. Basically the story is that all of their shoes that they manufacture, the leather that they put on the tops, that's how it is from the moment it's a sheet. A lot of companies, when they make a pair of shoes or boots, they add additional color to it, change it up, add a custom patina or a marble effect or whatever it may be, where John Lobb doesn't do that. Whatever that hide is, that's what it's going to be like on the shoe and everything, so that's what they pride themselves on most. Honestly though, because of that price point though, it makes me question a little bit, because of that the way they're constructed. It had the gemming and everything. It wasn't a hand welted shoe, so honestly it does make me question that price point for a shoe like this, in other words, just because they're not hand welted. You know, my expectation is usually that they would hand welt it and everything, but overall they're still a phenomenal shoe. It's just my opinion, if I had $1,000 to spend, in other words, I'd probably go for something else, honestly, just because these are nice, they're very well made, you know, a lot of great small detail here and there. I mean, as far as like even the stitching and everything, they're very meticulous about that. But I'm not sure I'd be willing to spend $1,000, give or take a little bit, on this particular one. A lot of their other models that I've worked on and seen definitely are great, and they're like hand welted, very good construction, especially their lace-up models are the ones that you have to order, in other words. And this one here was one of those that I'm not 100% sure on. So otherwise, I'm going to be doing a actual cash or trash episode on these, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave it in the link of the description. As far as JR Resole and Recraft, we'll have to kind of see how things go, just because JR Leather did go out of business and a new company bought it out, as far as the recipe for the JR soles, Cobbler leather. It's going to be a little while before we see them, so I can't exactly leave a link in the description for the JR Recraft, but I'll leave the link in the description for our website if you want to sign up for our newsletters. As soon as we have Cobbler JR soles available and on hand, we're obviously going to be posting those on our website, and you'll get notified if you're signed up for the notifications and everything. And be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. We'll be notifying everybody probably first here on YouTube or our TikTok channel. We have a Linktree link down below that has all of our channels and places that we're at, like Facebook and Instagram, so definitely check that out as well. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you did, and we'll see you next time.